A story of unexpected love, second chances, and finding home. Asterisk before we begin, if stories about love finding you when you least expect it touch your heart, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We share stories every week that remind us all that life has beautiful surprises waiting around every corner. Now, let's dive into Marcus and Elena's incredible journey, asterisk. The fluorescent lights of Harrison Marketing buzzed overhead as Elena Vasquez adjusted her blazer for the third time that morning. She caught her reflection in the elevator doors, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a severe bun, and lips pressed into a thin line that had become her permanent expression over the past 2 years. At 34, she had climbed every rung of the corporate ladder with razor-sharp focus. CEO of a mid-sized marketing firm. Corner office. 6-figure salary. Everything she had worked for since leaving her small hometown in New Mexico at 18 with nothing but a scholarship and a burning determination to prove everyone wrong. But today wasn't about celebrating her achievements. Today was about damage control. The elevator doors opened to the executive floor, and her assistant, Priya, immediately fell into step beside her. "The new creative director starts today," Priya said, scrolling through her tablet. Marcus Chen. 41. Widower. Former partner at Brennan Creative before they downsized. His portfolio is impressive, but HR flagged something you should know. Elena didn't slow her pace. What is it? He negotiated a flexible schedule into his contract. Something about childcare responsibilities. He has a 7-year-old daughter. Elena's jaw tightened. She had nothing against children, she simply had no room in her life for complications. And in her experience, employees with flexible schedules often meant employees with divided attention. Set up a meeting for 10 o'clock. I want to make expectations clear from day one. What Elena didn't know, what she couldn't have possibly predicted, was that Marcus Chen was about to dismantle every wall she had spent her entire adult life building. Marcus stood in the lobby of Harrison Marketing, his daughter Lily's sticky handprint still visible on his sleeve from their goodbye that morning. He should have noticed it earlier. He should have worn the darker jacket. He should have done a lot of things differently. But life, he had learned, rarely cared about what you should have done. 3 years ago, he had been on top of the world. Partner at a prestigious firm, beautiful wife, perfect daughter, house in the suburbs with a yard for the dog they were planning to adopt. Then cancer came like a thief, stealing Sarah from him in 11 months, leaving him with a grief so profound he sometimes forgot how to breathe. The first year after Sarah's death was a blur of casseroles from neighbors, therapy sessions, and learning how to braid Lily's hair from YouTube tutorials at 2 in the morning. The second year brought the layoff, restructuring, they called it, and the humbling process of starting over at 41. Now here he was, new job, new city, new beginning. For Lily's sake. Always for Lily. Mr. Chen. A young woman with kind eyes approached him. I'm Priya. Ms. Vasquez is ready to see you. Marcus straightened his tie and followed her to the elevator, trying to ignore the knot forming in his stomach. He had heard about Elena Vasquez. Everyone in the industry had. Brilliant, ruthless, and allergic to excuses. She had built Harrison Marketing from a struggling startup into a powerhouse through sheer force of will. He respected that. He also feared it a little. The corner office was exactly what he expected, minimalist, pristine, dominated by a massive desk that seemed designed to intimidate. Behind it sat a woman who was decidedly not what he expected. Elena Vasquez was beautiful in a severe, untouchable way. High cheekbones, dark eyes that assessed him like a predator sizing up prey, and lips that probably hadn't curved into a genuine smile in years. But there was something else there, something he recognized because he had seen it in his own mirror countless times. Loneliness. Mr. Chen. Her voice was professional, clipped. Please, sit. He took the chair across from her, hyper-aware of the handprint on his sleeve. Thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Vasquez. I'm excited to contribute to the team. Her eyes dropped to his sleeve, and he saw her notice the smudge. Something flickered across her face, judgment? Disdain, before her expression smoothed back into neutrality. I'll be direct with you, Mr. Chen. I approved your hire because your portfolio speaks for itself. The campaign you designed for Morrison Hotels increased their bookings by 47%. That's remarkable work. Thank you. However. She leaned forward, folding her hands on the desk. I understand you've negotiated certain accommodations into your contract. I want to be clear that while I respect work-life balance in theory, Harrison Marketing operates at a certain pace. Our clients expect excellence, and excellence doesn't punch a clock. Marcus felt the old familiar anger rise in his chest, the same anger he had felt every time someone implied that being a devoted father made him less committed to his work. But he had learned, through years of practice, to channel that anger into something more useful. With respect, Ms. Vasquez, I've never missed a deadline in my career. I've never produced subpar work. I've won 11 industry awards, led teams that generated millions in revenue, and built a reputation for exceeding expectations. He paused, meeting her gaze directly. I've done all of that while raising a daughter alone. If you're concerned about my commitment, I'd suggest looking at results rather than assumptions. For a long moment, Elena just stared at him. Then something shifted in her expression, not quite respect, but perhaps its precursor. Curiosity. Fair enough, Mr. Chen. Results it is. She stood, extending her hand. Welcome to Harrison Marketing. When their hands touched, Marcus felt something unexpected, a jolt of awareness that had nothing to do with professional respect. Her hand was cool and soft, her grip firm but not aggressive. And for just a moment, her eyes widened slightly, as if she had felt it too. Then the moment passed, and she was all business again. Priya will show you to your office. We have a pitch for Callaway Cosmetics in 3 weeks. I expect you'll want to hit the ground running. Of course. But as Marcus left her office, he couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just begun. The first month at Harrison Marketing was a trial by fire. Elena ran her company like a military operation, precise, demanding, and utterly unforgiving of mistakes. Marcus threw himself into the Callaway pitch with everything he had, often staying late to perfect concepts while Lily stayed with Mrs. Patterson, the elderly neighbor he had hired to help with childcare. But no matter how hard he worked, Elena seemed determined to find fault. The color palette is too safe, she said during one late-night review session, flipping through his concept boards. Callaway wants bold. This is corporate. Callaway's demographic is women over 40 who are looking for sophistication, not shock value, Marcus countered. Bold doesn't have to mean aggressive. Are you arguing with me? I'm doing my job, which includes advocating for work I believe in. They were alone in the conference room, the rest of the floor long since emptied. Elena's jacket was draped over a chair, her sleeves rolled up, and a strand of hair had escaped her normally perfect bun. She looked almost human like this. She also looked exhausted. When was the last time you ate something? Marcus asked, the question slipping out before he could stop it. Elena blinked, clearly thrown by the change in subject. I don't see how that's relevant. It's relevant because you've been running on coffee and spite for 6 hours, and it's affecting your judgment. Excuse me? You're not wrong about the color palette, there's room for more vibrancy. But the core concept is solid, and you know it. You're just too tired to see past the details. He started gathering the boards. Go home, Ms. Vasquez. Eat something. Sleep. We can revisit this tomorrow. For a moment, he thought she might fire him on the spot. Her eyes flashed with something dangerous, and her jaw tightened in that way he had come to recognize as a warning sign. But then, unexpectedly, she laughed. It was a rusty sound, as if her throat had forgotten how to produce it. But it was genuine, and it transformed her face completely. "You know, no one has spoken to me like that in years," she said. "Like what?" "Like I'm a person instead of a position." She reached for her jacket, sliding it on with practiced movements. "You're right. I should go home." "Big plans for the evening?" It was a casual question, the kind of small talk he would make with any colleague. But something in her expression shuddered. "No," she said quietly. "No plans. Just, home." She left without another word, and Marcus stood alone in the conference room, wondering why that simple admission made his chest ache. The breakthrough came 6 weeks into his tenure, on a day that started terribly and ended in a way Marcus never could have predicted. Mrs. Patterson called at 7 in the morning with a case of the flu that made it impossible for her to watch Lily. Marcus's backup babysitter was unavailable. The nanny agency had no one on short notice. And he had a presentation to the Callaway team at 2 o'clock. He could ask for the day off. But the presentation was the culmination of 6 weeks of work, and he needed to be there. So Marcus did the only thing he could think of. He brought Lily to work. She was an angel on the drive over, quietly reading her book and promising to be invisible in Daddy's office. But by noon, the novelty of the corporate environment had worn off, and she was restless, bored, and increasingly difficult to contain. When 2 o'clock rolled around, Marcus set Lily up in his office with a tablet, snacks, and strict instructions to stay put. He would be gone for an hour, maybe less. She could handle it. The presentation went brilliantly. Callaway loved the revamped color palette, more vibrant, just as Elena had suggested, but still sophisticated. The CEO was ready to sign on the spot. Then Marcus's phone buzzed. "Text from Priya, your daughter is in Ms. Vasquez's office." His blood ran cold. Elena had been reviewing quarterly reports when the knock came at her door, too light to be an adult. "Come in." The door opened to reveal a small girl with dark hair and serious eyes. She was wearing a purple dress and clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. "Are you the boss lady?" the girl asked. Elena blinked. Yes. I suppose I am. I'm Lily. My daddy works here. He's in a meeting and I got bored and the lady outside said I shouldn't bother you, but I wanted to see what a boss lady's office looks like." Despite herself, Elena felt her lips twitch. "And what's the verdict?" Lily looked around critically. "It's very clean. Don't you have any toys?" "I'm afraid not." "That's sad." Lily walked further into the office, completely unintimidated by the space that made seasoned executives nervous. "My mommy died. Did you know that?" The bluntness of it hit Elena like a physical blow. No. I didn't. 3 years ago. I was 4. I don't remember her very much, but Daddy shows me videos so I don't forget her voice." Lily climbed onto the chair across from Elena's desk, her feet dangling above the floor. "Daddy says she had the best laugh in the world." Elena didn't know what to say. She had built her entire career on always knowing what to say, on having the perfect response for every situation. But this 7-year-old with her direct gaze and matter-of-fact grief had completely disarmed her. "I'm sorry about your mother," Elena finally managed. "That must have been very hard." "It was. Daddy cried a lot. But he says it's okay to be sad when you lose someone you love. He says the sadness means the love was real." Lily tilted her head, studying Elena with an intensity that felt far too knowing for her age. "Do you have someone you love?" The question pierced something in Elena's chest that she had kept carefully buried for years. I work a lot," she said, aware of how inadequate the answer was. "There's not much time for." "That's sad too," Lily interrupted. "Daddy works a lot but he always has time for me. He says I'm his best thing." Before Elena could respond, the door burst open and Marcus rushed in, looking terrified. "Lily! I am so sorry, Ms. Vasquez. She was supposed to stay in my office. I had a backup plan fall through this morning and—" "Daddy!" Lily hopped off the chair and ran to him. "The boss lady doesn't have any toys in her office. Can you believe it?" Marcus looked mortified. "That's because this is a place for grown-ups to work, sweetheart. Which is why you were supposed to stay in my office. But I met the boss lady. She's pretty but she seems lonely." Elena felt heat rise to her cheeks. Children and their devastating honesty. Okay, that's enough character assessment for one day. Marcus scooped Lily up, meeting Elena's eyes over his daughter's head. "I'm truly sorry. If you need to write me up or—" "It's fine." The words came out before Elena could think them through. "Really? No harm done." Marcus studied her for a moment, something shifting in his expression. "Thank you. I'll just—" "Actually." Elena stood, surprising herself. "The presentation is over, yes? How did it go?" "They loved it. They're signing tomorrow. Then there's no reason you need to stay late tonight." She straightened some papers on her desk, avoiding his eyes. "Go home. Spend time with your daughter. The work will be here tomorrow." There was a long pause, and then Marcus said softly, "Thank you, Elena." It was the first time he had used her first name. The sound of it in his voice did something to her that she wasn't prepared to examine. "You're welcome, Marcus." After that day, something changed between them. It wasn't dramatic or obvious. They were still professional, still careful. But there were moments, a shared look across the conference table, a brush of hands when passing documents, conversations that lingered a few minutes longer than necessary. Elena found herself noticing things about Marcus that she had no business noticing. The way he hummed under his breath when working on a difficult concept. The way he always remembered how everyone on his team took their coffee. The way his whole face softened when he talked about Lily. She also noticed the handprints. They appeared regularly, on his sleeve, his briefcase, once on the back of his jacket. Evidence of a life beyond these walls, of sticky fingers and morning hugs and all the messy, beautiful chaos of loving a child. Elena had never wanted children. She had told herself that for years. Children required vulnerability, selflessness, a willingness to let someone else's needs come before your own. She had built her entire existence around never needing anyone that much. But watching Marcus navigate fatherhood with such devoted grace made her question things she had long considered settled. The moment that changed everything happened 3 months after Lily's impromptu office visit. They were working late again, the Harris Electronics pitch was due in 2 days, and they were still refining the final presentation. Everyone else had gone home. The building was quiet except for the hum of computers and the occasional rumble of the elevator. "I think that's it," Marcus said, leaning back in his chair. "We're as ready as we're going to be." "Agreed." Elena stretched, feeling the tension in her shoulders from hours of hunching over documents. "Good work today." "You too." He stood, moving around the conference table to help gather the scattered papers. Elena reached for the same folder at the same moment he did. Their hands collided, and instead of pulling away, Marcus's fingers closed gently around hers. Time seemed to stop. He was so close she could smell his cologne, something clean and woodsy that she had never consciously registered before but somehow knew intimately. His eyes met hers, and for once, they weren't guarded or professional. They were searching, questioning, vulnerable. "Elena," he said, her name a whisper. His other hand came up to brush a strand of hair from her face, his fingertips grazing her cheek with a tenderness that made her breath catch. It was such a simple touch. Innocent, almost. But it broke something open inside her that she hadn't even known was sealed shut. She should step back. should remind him of their professional relationship, the complications this would create, all the reasons why this was a terrible idea. Instead, she heard herself say, "Touch me like that again, and I won't be able to pretend you're just my boss." The words hung in the air between them, electric and terrifying. Marcus went very still. "And if I don't want to pretend anymore? Then we have a problem. Do we?" His hand was still on her cheek, warm and steady. Elena closed her eyes, feeling something crack in the walls she had built so carefully around her heart. "I'm not good at this," she whispered. "I don't know how to do this. I've never let anyone." She stopped, frustrated by her own inability to articulate what she was feeling. "I know." Marcus's voice was gentle. "I see you, Elena. All of you. The woman who built this company from nothing, who works harder than anyone I've ever met, who's so terrified of needing anyone that she's convinced herself she's better off alone." She opened her eyes, startled by the accuracy of his observation. "I also see the woman who let a 7-year-old invade her office and didn't have her thrown out. The woman who told me to go home and spend time with my daughter when she could have demanded I work through the night. The woman who notices when people are struggling and finds ways to help without making them feel small. That's not. It is." He cupped her face in both hands, holding her gaze with an intensity that left her nowhere to hide. "You're not as cold as you want everyone to believe. And I'm not going to pretend I haven't been falling for you since the day you told me my work was safe and then challenged me to prove you wrong." Elena's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could feel it. "This is complicated. Everything worth having is. I could hurt you. I don't mean to, but I'm not. I've never been good at making people happy. I don't need you to make me happy." He smiled, and it was so warm, so genuine, that it made her chest ache. "I just need you to let me in. The rest we figure out together." She should say no. She should protect him, protect herself, protect everything she had worked so hard to build. Instead, she rose on her toes and kissed him. Falling in love with Marcus Chen was nothing like Elena had expected. She had always imagined that relationships required sacrificing the things that mattered most to her, her career, her independence, her carefully controlled existence. But Marcus didn't ask her to sacrifice anything. He simply made room for himself in her life in ways that felt natural, inevitable. He remembered that she liked her coffee with exactly 1.5 sugars. He brought her lunch when she forgot to eat. He learned her moods, when to push and when to